Hi, welcome to the other 167 here. I'm Brandon, and I am delighted to share on this subject. This is part 10 of the Sexual Immorality series, and we are covering the subject of pornography, and we're getting into the depth of it as to what really it is, and we'll be covering various ground in the parts to follow. Now, the heading of this is "We are like moths to a flame to pornography." Now. As I've stated this before, that all kinds of sexual immorality is not the will of God. It is harmful to us. Satan is literally behind all these forms of sexual immorality, sexual perversion, and all kinds of distortions. This world has rather defined what sex should really be. Is actually Satan's tools to deceive us, to enslave us, and to eventually or ultimately have our marriages fall apart, have our relationships broken, and all kinds of detriment. Now, we are like moths to a flame. Now, pornography or even sexual immorality is a very powerful drive. It's a very powerful, it can be very super powerful. In fact, when we want it so badly, and when we have the liberty to engage in watching it, or to be part of it, or rather to partake in it, and we have that liberty, that urge and that stronghold and that addiction and that attraction to it is very powerful, and that's actually a satanic force. Evil is behind that. Satan is behind that powerful force that we have towards pornography. Now, what is sexual immorality? Now, sex in and of itself is good. It's given as a gift by God, and it is for us, for our pleasure and for our sexual gratification, and also for procreation. So, in and of itself, sex is actually an amazing gift from God. But because Satan cannot create sex, because he could not create all these things, what he can do is he can pervert these things to ultimately have us destroyed. So what he does is he uses what God created, like the drive for sex, like the drive or the natural drive that we have for the opposite sex. He uses that particular drive, and he leads us to the slaughter. Okay. What he does is he uses the God-given drive, and then that particular drive or that motivation is used for something that is harmful. For the same reasons, a person can entice you with a nice bowl of ice cream by actually putting poison inside of that. Similarly, Satan uses our sex for the same reasons. We have taste buds to sort of be attracted to something nice that is very endearing to the eyes, or that's very attractive to the eyes. Similarly, Satan uses our God-given sex drive that we have otherwise for the opposite sex to entice us or to bind us into the slavery of pornography, wherein he takes us to the slaughter, so that upon your sexual release you realize that it's all over, and you've actually just betrayed your spouse, or you've betrayed your loved ones, and you've betrayed yourself. You find yourself distanced from God. So that's what essentially Satan does. He leads us to the slaughter by using our sex drive. Now, as I've said this before, and I'm stating this again, that Satan he's not this friendly person, or he's not this person that generally we may hear some preachers say, you have crushed him under your feet and you're all right, and he's nothing, he's a small this in front of you and all of that. And yes, it is true from the point of view of salvation. God did destroy the works of the devil, but now those works have to be the destruction of the works of the devil must be effective in our day-to-day walk. Yes, Jesus finished the work of salvation, and he destroyed the works of the devil on that cross. But until our grave, we will have that adversity and oppression and that opposition till our grave. So we have to overcome till our grave. And Satan is a crafty being. He's a crafty person. He's a real being. He's a real personality, by the way. He has his own mind. He's actually a real person, and he's so crafty. He can't create like the way God creates, but he takes what is already created and he perverts it, he twists it, and he leads us to the slaughter. So that's part 10, that Satan uses our God-given sex. Now remember, if you have a sex drive and you are attracted to the opposite sex, you are absolutely normal, and you don't have to beat yourself up for having that drive. But what happens is what you use, or rather what you do with that drive and to what use you put it, is what really matters. And while we may not realize, pornography is self-destructive. It is sinning against oneself for the same reasons the Bible says when you fornicate or when you commit adultery, you sin against your own body. So watching pornography is actually sin, because pornography always leads to self-stimulation. It always leads to some kind of dire release that you are seeking when you are conceiving what you're watching before your very eyes. So on that note now, this is the crux. This is the takeaway. Satan, you have sex drive. That's good. That's God's gift to you. But what Satan does is he uses your innocence. He uses your sex drive to lead you into something that is not promising, that has no promise. Rather, for the same reason, someone would entice you with something really nice, and then you follow that person to a cliff, and then he drops you below. So what he was doing is he was actually trying to deceive you all along so that he can actually destroy you. And that's what pornography does. Because upon your sexual release, you realize that the wonderful woman or man that you were seeing on screen is inexistent. It's just a facsimile. It's just a mirage of the real thing, and it's unreal. Though those people may be real on screen, you will never have those people to yourself. You will never have that body to yourself. So it's it's for the same reasons. A puppet takes a puppet master. Takes a puppet, toys with it, and finally leads you or drops you off the cliff. So that's point number 10. Part number 10, where we are like moths to a flame. Now, pornography is so powerful that you actually, moths to a flame. What happens is now moths actually die when they go to the candle or when they go to some sort of really high intensity light source. But actually, what happens is they know that they die, but yet they actually go back to it for the same reasons. We know what pornography does. We have tasted it, especially if you're born again and then you give into pornography. You feel disgusted. You feel horrible. And then when you have that sexual release, you realize, what did I do all along? I should not have. I wish I did not. I wish I could just hate this particular sin. So what happens is so we are like moths to a flame. We know that it's wrong, and we still give into it time and again. So that's part 10. On that note, Romans 6:21, and I've quoted this verse several times before in my videos. On the other 167, what fruit had you then received? What fruit had you then in those things whereof you are now ashamed? For the end of those things is death. So sin always results to death. Sin, death, despair, hopelessness, sickness, disease, these are all synonymous. So that's all a departure. That's all a result of a departure from God. So the end is death. So pornography results to death, and that death is actually spiritual separation that you feel upon your sexual release when you give into pornography. I hope this video is helping you. I hope we're covering some ground, and I hope it's applicable to you, and I'm sure it's applicable to you, and it's applicable to all of us, whether you're married, whether you're not. And in fact, it is more important for those who are married, because you're already married to someone and you can't reverse that, and you have to be faithful to that person, and that's your godly duty. And when you get into pornography, it just distances you from your wife. Okay, so I hope this videos are helping you, and thank you for hearing me out.